Welcome. Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Nice turn in the weather. And it of course is not only our meeting day, but it is the vernal equinox. For those of you who are readers, the first day of spring. And I think most of us are. I just want to mention one thing. Some of you may know of it, some of you may not know of it, but a former SALS board member and past president, Arnie Ellman from Clifton Park, died this past week at the age of 90. He was in pretty good condition up till a couple of months ago when he went into hospice for COPD, as a matter of fact. He also was president of the Clifton Park Half Moon Board of Trustees as well. Some of you remember him, some of you know him. A really great guy. And when I first, a couple of terms ago, was on the Clifton Park board, he was kind of like a mentor to me, and not only encouraged me to run for treasurer and then president of the board, but he said, you might be interested in this other board. It's called SALS. And it's kind of appropriate that his memorial service is this afternoon, and we can't go because we're having our SALS board meeting. So anyhow, I think most of you have seen the card, except for for Christine. We've done a card for Toby, his widow, and we'll be sending that along. Are there any other announcements?
If people wanted to make a donation.
Oh, yes. There are a couple of different things. One of them is a not-for-profit that the family likes. And if you're interested in, leaving a donation, by our rules, we can't send anything directly from SALS, but we would certainly pool it and make the donation to the charity. I forgot which one it was.
Hospice.
Hospice, yeah. Okay, you can do that after the meeting. Are there any other announcements? Okay, any public comment? I don't see members of the public. Okay, let's move on to the approval of the board minutes. Are there any corrections? I believe you said you had one that we actually met with 3 representatives rather than 2.
Yeah, that's in my director's report.
Okay.
Second paragraph. I apologize.
No, that's okay. And all right. Any other corrections? Okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, Elaine, is there a second? Sue? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we have the treasurer's report. Bob.
In your packets, the warrants for the month were presented if you have any questions on those. And the treasurer's report, we started the month of February off with $2,165,938. We received 96,483, of which 11,000 was the final 10% of the LLSA, and 8,800 was the final 10% from the state for the LSSA. Other than that, it was just normal, reimbursements and, normal income that we have on a monthly basis. During the month, we spent $293,765, and we ended the month with $1,968,656. Which you can see the breakdown as to the money that we have invested in CDs versus the money market and checking accounts.
Any questions of the treasurer? Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's move on to the director's report. Sarah?
Has to approve that.
Pardon?
Then we have to approve that. Has to be approved for filing.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for file and the status? Okay, from Jordan, is there a second? Seconded by Margaret. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
I do have one question. The CDs that are coming due in April, what kind of interest are you thinking you're going to be able to get on those?
We should be able to get a little bit more than what we did on the one that we rolled over The last one we rolled over around 4.3%. It should be higher than that for the next one. I haven't started shopping them yet, but will with our contact with Circle of the Nationals. We have to look at our cash flow and decide if, I'll decide if we can actually roll over both of those, or if we need to keep in cash, because our local cash is all down to 443,000, and we've got to get until probably July before we'll get any more money from the state.
Right. So maybe one and not the other. We have
Yeah,
one.
well, Colleen's gonna do a cash flow analysis for me to look at, and then we'll decide.
Thank you.
Hi,
Okay, Sarah.
everyone. Happy spring. Yay. I want to first thank Jill for running the meeting last month when I was in Florida. And the wedding was beautiful. Anyway, one of the discussions in the last meeting had been with the annual meeting and the hybrid, holding it as hybrid. Nothing is inexpensive. And we are getting estimates to see how much it would cost to make it a hybrid experience. The lesser expensive option is $4,122. So the board, and I think Pamela, do we hear anything about the whiteboard yet?
I have not, but I can
Okay.
follow up on that right now.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is making it do using some of the equipment we have and having a whiteboard that's mobile get to the Marriott, and we could do our version of having it at remote. The question is, do we really want it hybrid? Is it worth the extra expense? And whether we should just have it as a face-to-face meeting. So we're going to be talking about that later on, and maybe Pamela will have an answer about the portable whiteboard, because you need a screen and you need,
I think Jack has something to.
Jack, you have something to say?
I just want to mention, because I think you weren't here, but we do have projectors coming in through the OATS program. So we will have a projector if we need one.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, don't we have that kind of equipment?
Oh, yeah, if we want to spend $4,122
Okay.
and an administrative fee.
I got it, okay.
And we have a neighbor who's also in the communication media, and his was 8,000. So it's the last time I'm gonna. To do it, no, I'm kidding. He's a wonderful neighbor, and he said he just couldn't even come down because this would be half of what he would need to charge us, so.
Is that what this is?
That's what this is.
Okay.
And there's an administrative fee on top of that.
Oh, that, I was wondering why the number was a little low.
Okay.
We're going to discuss this under new business, so let's
Correct.
reserve the discussion and questions until then. But
Okay,
Thanks for
now,
everything, Sarah.
Assemblywoman Warner and Assemblyman Bendet have expressed interest in attending, and Assemblywoman Warner's office is willing to do citations for us, and I'm sure we could reach out to one of our state senators so that award winners and other people, and perhaps something for Arnie as well, we can have it done. So we'll take care of that when we have more information, which is April next month.
Right. I think possibly Senator Tedisco would be amenable to that. He's a big library supporter.
Well, what we found out during our advocacy, we are very, very lucky. All of our elected officials, at least in the state, are very strong library supporters. And I'll say it one more time. It's not really, well, maybe it's something that we do, but it's our member libraries in their communities doing all that wonderful work. And it's recognized by our elected officials, which leads me to the budget. So I sent out information about the governor's budget and how completely disappointed I was that she lowered the amount of funding. After speaking with our legislators, the Assembly has a one-house budget and the Senate has a one-house budget. And somewhere in negotiations, what the governor wants and what the Assembly wants and what the Senate wants gets mushed together. And it's hopeful that we'll have increased funding. The Assembly library aid would be at 104.6 million, which is the full funding in the budget that was written, or in the education law that was written a decade ago. Which would be an 8.5 million increase from the governor's executive budget. And the library construction aid would go up to 54 million, which is a 40 million increase from the executive budget. And they also have some information about Love Your Library Fund, and that helps with the summer reading program, I believe. And they want to increase that to 175,000, which translates to SALS, $6,000 for the summer reading. The Senate was a little different. The Senate aid is 103.1 million, which is still higher, which is a 7 million increase from the executive. Library construction would all go up to 35 million, which is a 25 million increase from the executive budget. And the Love Your Library Fund would still be at 150,000. So that's it in a nutshell. Both are generous, both are better, but of course, libraries in my heart deserve even more funding than this. I'm going to ask that you all table under new business number F, no, not number F. Barbara Taylor had asked that it be included in the today's meeting, and since she's not here, I'm suggesting why don't we hold off with your approval until the next meeting. And this, I sent out a link to the SALS satisfaction survey. And I just wanted to share some observations. For us, this survey is very important. We base our budget on the responses from the survey, and we also tweak our services based upon the survey. This is what our member libraries feel SALS should be offering, and we take it very, very seriously. 178 people answered, and about 62% of the member library directors answered. So more than half of our member library directors answered the survey. It was interesting this year because more library staff answered than in the past. And as I said earlier, we look very closely at this survey because this is how we determine our budgeting for the following year, and as well as programs and services that we offer now, and we evaluate and tweak. So quickly looking at it, one of the things that we are going to be offering is even more training. And there's one comment that really concerned me. And Bob, maybe you remember, because you were on the SALS board at the time. When I first became director of SALS, almost 2 decades ago, I wasn't quite sure what services SALS provided. And it seemed like we had 34 member libraries and we had 34 different services. Everything was more custom for the libraries, and that was not sustainable. We had also a different staff doing different things, and that wasn't sustainable either. And the comment that concerned me was that some people answering perceive the services we provide for smaller libraries is different than the services that we provide for larger libraries. And that's not really true. And what I realized we had Sandra Nelson and June Garcia provide a 2-day retreat maybe for all of the member libraries and their board presidents, as well as the SALS staff at the Sagamore in Bolton Landing. It was a grant. It didn't come directly out of SAL. It was a grant that we did. And what we found out was, and they did this 4 different ways. We found out that what larger libraries need to provide services for their members was the same as what smaller libraries needed to provide services for the people that live in their community. And we tested it and we asked, because we had people from all different size libraries there. Do you remember that?
I do.
But Bob is the only one who remembers that. Because Bob and I are old.
I didn't have white hair back.
That was one thing, but also there's been almost 100% turnover in library directors as well. So we need to re-examine that, because people don't remember that, and they weren't part of that discussion. So that was one of the things that I really thought about, because we have a small budget providing services, and as you know, just delivery eats up most of our budget, and most of our budget is passed through to the member libraries, and it's categorical. So it might be time to start looking at that again.
I think the annual survey came out of that retreat that we had, and prior to that, we were we thought we knew what the libraries wanted, but we learned a lot with the start of the survey, and we really went a different direction.
And that's probably why we have some money in for reserves that we can invest in CDs.
Were people able to specify what they thought the differences were, or was it just a general feel?
It was just a general feeling, and I think I really think this is my philosophy, that our smaller libraries are providing the same or similar services as the larger libraries. The only difference is they're not open as many hours because of minimum standards. Their staff may not be as large because of their budgets and minimum standards. And there was a third, staffing. Oh, the number of people who are walking through the door. More people will be walking through the Crandall door than maybe the Stony Creek door. But everybody who's coming here expects a certain level of service from their member libraries. And I think there is just an understanding of what libraries need to provide to their communities. And if this wasn't happening, I don't think our state legislators would have been as generous and knowing, they knew what services our libraries provide. The only thing I'm going to jump out and just say, some of the things that might be different in the different libraries has to do with grant funding or our partners and what communities these partners work with. So if Hamilton County is getting certain things, let's say through Narcan, that group may not work with Saratoga County. So it has to do with the partnership of or the service area of our community partners. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but where SALS has helped is making other parts of the region aware, even though there might be different partners of projects that are going on. Narcan's a good example. That's spread to some other places as well too, because there's a need in that particular area, no matter what your community is, and other things that are common to one or more libraries in a certain part of our region are transferable to other parts. And that's where Eric and Jack come in so well, because they spread what we're doing to other libraries as well.
So I think that was one of my takeaways from the survey. I don't know if others saw that the way I did. I also learned that I need to communicate better with trustees, because people were saying, we really like the two newsletters that come out of SALS, but it really doesn't address what trustees need. So I have to re-examine how I'm working with member library trustees or the SALS staff needs. The other thing I saw that was review and improve the JA website. Right now, the JA website is behind security. And this is something that I'm going to talk about later, but I'm going to bring it out now. If you want to get into it, you need a SALS email address. And what I'm suggesting that all of you as trustees may want a SALS email address. because we're foilable. And if you're using your own personal address, that's foilable because you might be conducting work on SALS work on your own private address. So keep that in mind also. You want to separate, and we can do that, and that would give you access to the JA intranet and website. The other thing I saw was that, and there's been a change in the commissioner's regulations, that Kathy Naftali, who is the director of Crandall and SALS, me and the staff, will work to better explain, communicate central library services with the member library staff and trustee. And we will be scheduling a central library committee meeting very, very shortly. So those are some of the things I wanted to share as my observations. In your packet, there is the survey responses, but there's also a link in my board report to the full survey, if you want to take a look and read the comments. I sometimes think the comments are better, because I think that it gives you some more insight. And what I really, really, really want to say is that the key finding is 100% of the respondents, and that is staff, trustees, volunteers, responded they were satisfied with the SALS services. And that is phenomenal. And that reflects back on your leadership, keeping us going forward, as well as the incredible SALS staff. And the other thing is that 99% found the SALS services that we currently provide are valuable and relevant. So thank you for that. So that's what I wanted to say about my director's report. I told you about the SALS email account. I'm passing around something called Messages from Survivors that I think we're going to go forward with, but I just wanted you to see it. And I really want to do a shout out to Pamela and Colleen. Besides their everyday duties, they reviewed the SALS and helped write the SALS annual report and helped the member libraries. Pamela, I don't want to put you on the spot, but did we get responses from everyone yet?
We have responses from everybody. We have.
So we'll be able to submit the member library reports, and hopefully after today, we will, with what the one correction, we're going to talk about it later, we'll be able to submit the SALS. So shout out to Pamela and Colleen and everyone who was involved in the annual report process, as well as shout out to the member library staff and their financial people. We're going to do a little show and tell right now to give you an idea of some of our services. I hope you don't mind. This might be a good orientation for some of the newer trustees. Russ, you've seen this.
Pardon?
You've seen this.
I know,
Russ.
but I can watch it again.
And Carol, you've seen this. Take it away.
All right, let me get started here and share my screen. Oh, I should also just point out before I share that, that you can get to the satisfaction survey through About SALS, Statistical and Executive Summary. And the executive summary has the link to the system use and satisfaction survey. Let me just move this out of the way. There we go. So this was our slide deck for Advocacy Day. We're going to go through many of the slides, but we'll skip over some of them. So Sarah sort of mentioned what the Senate and the Assembly are thinking. So I'm not sure if you want to start there, Sarah, or if you'd like to start here.
Nope. We wanted to show that investing in libraries keeps money in the community. So we talked a little bit about the construction projects and how that brings money to local electricians and roofers and all of that good stuff. We also wanted to let people know, our legislators know, that putting funding into the libraries means 700 plus people who work in libraries are part of economic engines. Next slide, please.
Come on. Oh, so Sarah had mentioned, people coming in the doors. And in 2021, we had more than 700,000 library visitors. So these are people working remotely, using computers and the Wi-Fi, new families attending story times, and groups of older adults like those in Schuylerville who hop in the car together and once a week drive to the library to pick up fresh veggies. In many rural communities, the library is the only place in town. There are no bowling alleys, no movie theaters. The library is the cultural hub. Well-funded libraries serve as hubs for intellectual and cultural exchange, providing opportunities for people of all ages and backgrounds to explore new ideas, expand their horizons, and enhance their skills. So our libraries aren't just physical locations. Over the past 3 years, we've seen a dramatic increase in the use of digital collections, nearly a 200% increase in database usage. With the rise in homeschooling, our materials and databases have become a vital resource. Our e-content like ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines has seen an increase of 130%. The increase in demand has created log jams. Long digital lines are just as tiresome as being stuck in a never-ending physical line. People now have to wait longer for access. In some instances, months before a copy becomes available. I'm not sure how clear it is, but here you can see a snapshot of a typical morning in February. By 11:30, we've already had 264 checkouts. You'll notice that we have one item here with 59 holds on it, and that's for only 5 copies. Looking at our projections for 2023, we're going to shatter our previous year's records. Underfunding libraries is limiting access in our communities. Sarah, this is your slide, unless you want to move on.
As you know, and as you approve the budget, you see that we do the delivery. We purchase ebook and digital content as a consortium. We provide professional development and training. We support the latest technology. And after this meeting, please go into the training room and Jack will share with you some of the equipment we're getting for OATS. We provide outreach services for people with challenging conditions. And just to let you know, we do provide library services to 2 state correctional facilities, and we provide services to people incarcerated in county jails. And then, also through all the reports that I write to you, that we do help people with grants and the public library construction. It's your time, our time, and the member library's time. Next slide, please.
So libraries are innovators. We're always striving to provide information and access to our communities. We are working to bridge the digital divide every day. You can get instant access to a library card online. We work with schools so students have access to our collections just by being a student. We provide technology classes for older adults. And if you'd like to see that technology after the meeting, visit us in the training room. We believe libraries are for everyone, and access means being open physically and digitally. We provide content that is accessible. That might be by providing accessible websites or technology. For example, my mom has Parkinson's and lifting a heavy book is out of the question, but accessing ebooks on her device gives her access to the public library. There are myriad ways in which our communities access information, but libraries continue to be a trusted place for information. Erica?
So as you know, we have a modest budget, but some pretty big dreams of what we can do for our communities. So the way that we found that we can make that work is through partnerships. And we're really proud of our partnerships and how they benefit our community members. And I'm just going to share a few today. So we partner with Comfort Food Community and the Capital Roots Squash Hunger Program on our Farm to Library program, designed to eliminate food waste, which is a major ecological concern, address food insecurity by improving food access, by making free local fresh produce available to 13 communities in rural and 1 urban food desert. So last year, the Crandall Library joined on as well. So in 2022, so far, not all the numbers are in. I'm still waiting to get them from Squash Hunger. But we shared more than 45,000 pounds of fresh food with more than 14,000 people. And that's pretty amazing when you think about, the size of our libraries and the size of most of our communities. And at a time when inflation has really had a pretty profound impact on the cost of food, we've seen a massive increase in the usage, but also in previous years, we would get a food delivery and the food would be there for a couple of days so people could come in and pick it up whenever. In 2022, we saw that everything was gone within an hour to 90 minutes of the delivery. That's how much of a demand there is. And the impact of the program has been really profound. In Salem at the Bancroft Library, senior citizens use the program to supplement their meals. Having local access to fresh food means they don't have to drive all the way to Greenwich or Cambridge to pick up something they might need. Users of the program reflect that it's really been a blessing to them. On a more somber note, as our region battles with the opioid epidemic, we've been partnering with the Adirondack Health Institute's Rural Communities Opioid Response Program to protect our communities from overdoses by providing Narcan emergency kit boxes, which contain 2 packages of these Narcan emergency kits with the, I can never say this correctly, naloxone. I mean, I may not be saying it right, but those kits are available to anybody who needs it. So anybody in the public can just come in and help themselves to the kit, no questions asked. And as Jack mentioned, we recently partnered with AARP to bring the Senior Planet's Older Adults Technology Services program to our region, providing technology classes for older adults on subjects like online banking, internet scams, and social media. And thanks to this collaboration, we have a grant to train library staff, purchase assistive technology, and educate our older patrons about how to safely and successfully navigate online. The services that we provide to our communities are vital and varied, responding to the needs of our friends and neighbors. And what we were trying to communicate in Advocacy Day is when libraries are underfunded, it directly impacts what we can do, which impacts our region's quality of life. There, Jack, I kept it under 90 minutes. You should be proud of me.
No.
Before we go on, Erica and Jack, we're also partnering with the CDLC, Capital District Library Council, and I think soon we'll be distributing Chromebooks to do telehealth. We're working on that, correct?
Yes, there was an issue with the Chromebooks and a warning on the screen that said, so the way that they distribute them is through Google platform. And there was a big red warning that came up that said, by using this device, CDLC is able to listen on your audio, see you through the video, and has a history of all your passwords. And so we did not distribute that until we fixed it. And it has been fixed in the past week. So stay tuned.
Right? right?
Right.
Thank you, Jack.
The warning's been fixed, but not the.
No, there's not gonna be spying.
Erica, when you're ready?
Get comfortable, Jack.
Oh dear.
So we understand that our libraries can only be as successful as the communities they serve. So we do all that we can to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. We provide funding so that our member libraries can have staff trained as notaries public. And last year, again, I'm still waiting for some of the numbers, but I know that they notarized more than 1,000 documents, which is awesome. Which makes this service available locally and for a longer period of time than banks are usually open, which is where a lot of people go to get stuff notarized. We've also been building a really robust virtual collection in our Libraries Mean Business Overdrive. And we have everything from ebooks to support small businesses, entrepreneurs, and job seekers. We have titles that people can access 24/7. So because we know that entrepreneurs are going all the time and you have kids and everything else. So put the kids to bed and you can get on and find what you need. We also in 2021 started adding some mental health and wellness titles to the collection, just recognizing the space that we are in as we deal with the ongoing effects of the pandemic and the economy and everything else. But we also support much larger employers like Global Foundries. When they came to our region, their workforce included a number of engineers holding H-1B visas. And while those professionals speak English, their families came with them, and many of their families often do not. And we see our libraries, like the Clifton Park Half Moon Library, have really stepped up to provide English language learners with robust programs and support, creating a really welcoming atmosphere and helping with the transition of living in a new community, in a new country, and building a community of support for these workers. And that's what I have on that. I mean, I could go on, but Jack will kill me.
One of the things that
People
came
wanna go
to
home tonight, Erica.
one of the things that came to light during our interview or during this process was a lot of the, like Crandall mentioned, they had a lot of Ukrainian refugees using their library that I was unaware of. So that was another thing that came to light. But I'm going to talk about summer reading. So when people think of libraries, they think of reading and summer reading. But summer reading is much more than getting lost in a book and the fun of carrying around a giant snake. Summer reading is a tool that helps kids and teens reduce the summer slide. It's a time for self-learning, and it's a chance for reluctant readers to read for fun. But the reality is we focus on literacy all year long. We teach new families about the importance of early literacy. We demonstrate early literacy techniques in our story times, and we teach families approaches so their children can flourish. Children who can read on grade level by the 3rd grade stand a much better chance of succeeding in school and life. Well-funded libraries give our youth a brighter future, and a society that plans for the future is more likely to thrive and succeed in achieving its goals and aspirations. And Sarah, you can close us out.
Well, this is everything that we believe in. I really can't because the way the pictures of everybody, but we wanted to share that we just wanted to summarize what we had said during the meeting, and that's what was behind those smiling faces looking at us. And I also wanted to throw in a little bit about how books are tools for people to understand complex issues. And that another thing that we believe in strongly is that parents, of course, decide what their children should read, but that parent doesn't decide what other parents' children should or should not read. So I had to do my IF
That was very
discussion, and that's how we summed it all up. And next slide, please. And we showed where all of our libraries are. So I hope that you enjoyed a little overview of the SALS services. You got to see our different presentation styles, and we want to really thank Russ. He was the one who started us off, kept us moving through it, and then summarizing at the end. So thank you, Russ.
the David Letterman of the library.
And I think,
Laugh a minute.
Yeah.
and it was
And-
very, very well received.
Just one more comment, in my role as MC. I went through all 3 days and, not just the ones that are in my area, but the ones that are in all of your areas too. And I thought the presentation was fantastic. The slides were really good, as you could see. They really caught your attention. And it doesn't hurt to throw in a key statistic here and there. But the interesting thing that I noticed with the response of in some cases, the legislators themselves, in a couple of cases, we had their head of staff because they were in committee or they were on the floor. The little things like Erica talking about the food, and like Jack using the personal example of his mother and the Parkinson's disease with assisted technology. And for that matter, at the very end, Sarah throwing in the bit about the right to read, how it's an individual choice, and that everybody has the right to choose and nobody has the right to impose it on somebody else. Those little personal observations this is just sort of for future reference, I think really made the presentation human and kept the interest. I mean, these legislators, Tuesday after Tuesday, in this case, a Wednesday through Friday, 3 days, had to listen to lobbyists and advocates coming in for all kinds of topics. And I think that's what made it really relevant to them. They
Thank
caught their
And just to build on that, I went down to Washington DC to meet with Congresswoman Stefanik's staff and Senator Schumer's staff. And they had an expert who came in to talk to all of us before we started our work on the Hill. And he was saying that they did have data showing that a virtual visit is as effective, if not more effective, than a face-to-face visit. And we were able to really come up with things. And I'm sorry about that one picture that will not be named, but you're gonna remember it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think our elected officials are gonna remember, as you said, different things, and we have data now showing that virtual visits, and it's really good for the environment. We're not all driving down to Albany.
Makes it easy,
Right,
right? It was easy, just, you're home in front of your computer or wherever and just log on.
so that sums up our visit, and maybe it refreshes in your mind some of the services that we provide, that we were doing based on our community surveys and based upon our budget, and it's all really nicely dovetailing together. I'm sorry, Margaret.
I have a question about your wonderful presentation there, if you couldn't send that out to trustees. Because I know that my trustees don't know what SALS is doing. In fact, we're having a board retreat next month, and that was one of the things I said that we should cover, is what SALS does, because the average trustee may not know. Even just to remind them that, gee, you get books delivered from all over the counties, who's providing that service? And that was a perfect example of the things that you do. If you could put that into a context that we could share with trustees.
We could even do it as a webinar and
A
invite
webinar is
everybody to join, which is one of the things that was pointed out in the survey, is we have to communicate what we do better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And you can never communicate it too much, too often, or well enough. So thank you for pulling that together, Margaret. Thank you.
Additionally, what was running through my mind was the problems that in Waterford we have had communicating our services with the town board, getting cooperation with the town board. So to be able to do that to town boards and to do it to the county board supervisors in all
Yeah,
of our
if you're-
participant counties.
If you're discussing your budget with, your legislators in town, why not have this great presentation of library services? I think that's a good tool to use.
So if it got, made into a brief webinar that could be shown,
That could be shared. I like that idea.
We could put something together with talking points for each of the slides too. I know that that's one of the things we did when we started the libraries mean business thing that I totally ripped off from the League of Women Voters, but having, kind of a canned set of slides that you can use along with some talking points to each point, and then each library could add in information from their community to personalize it and to make it resonate more. That would be great.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea on so many levels. And by this time, which was the 10th or 11th time we did it, we
Yes.
finally got into our group.
If either Jack or Erica gets sick, I think I could probably do the presentation. Thank you both. Okay, let's move on to, is that
That's
the
it.
finale? Okay,
That's
let's
the
move on to
finale.
committee reports. Finance first, Janet. Okay, building,
Well, so, the SALS construction grant deadline is coming up. Is it the end of the
It's the end of this
30th or
month,
the first?
April 1st, maybe.
Okay,
Am I right, Pamela? April 1st
yeah,
or March 31st?
I think it's April 1st. As of earlier today, I have 5 libraries and I know of at least one more that's going to be submitting an application. So it was 6 at a minimum.
Christine, you'll be holding the usual annual review of the projects a little later this
Yeah.
spring. Yeah,
And it'll be before our next board meeting.
okay,
We'll send out, once everything is sent in, Pamela will do her magic and send it out to all of the members of your committee so they can review it
Mhm.
before our board meeting and before your meeting. We'll just decide what time, based on how many applications.
Mhm.
And you want to talk about the walkthrough?
talk about the walkthrough.
It's been a while since it's been a while since we had meetings face to face, but it's been a while since trustees have come and walked through the building and the grounds. So we think it's a good idea. If maybe when it's a little drier, the building committee walk through the grounds to see our grounds outside, and walk through the building with a new set of eyes to see what needs to be done in our building.
This is saying to me, you sent me an email that I don't know anything about.
Okay, I asked if it was a good idea, and I said, yeah, it's a good idea. So when it's maybe before the June meeting, members, everybody's welcome to come to do the walkthrough. But members of the building committee, the one thing that I saw is the parking lot. It's worse than my street in the city of Albany with the potholes. So
I'm wondering too, if this is something that maybe, speaking of boards, I'm thinking of either the city or the county board for Saratoga. We have a major job coming up in Clifton Park, and we are piggybacking it and reducing costs. We'll pay part of it. We're reducing costs by piggybacking with the town of Clifton Park's highway department. When they're doing resurfacing, we're going to resurface our parking lot over several days. So it might be something to look into here.
okay,
City, maybe, perhaps.
is that enough? I mean, what's the last, have you seen our portal to the roof recently? We have a portal to get onto the roof.
Oh,
Before, you had to climb up a ladder, go over the edge, and
Yeah,
walk
roof.
around. But just to get you acquainted with the building and how it's being used. I
I'm
think the
thinking
last
lawn
time was
chairs for the
fall
June
days.
meeting, perhaps, lawn chairs.
Right.
and umbrellas.
Upstairs on the
Upstairs,
roof.
yeah,
There we go.
drinks with umbrellas and.
We got it in
Yeah.
June.
That's
We're
really
scheduling
good,
that other
doesn't
one,
it?
so, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
With umbrella, just umbrella.
Umbrella doesn't have umbrella.
It's on the beach.
And the drinks, yeah.
that's what we're talking about, yeah.
Little.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Jordan, bylaws.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Margaret, Central Library Aid.
We are having a meeting soon.
We're having a meeting soon,
Okay.
and there are two parts of the central library meeting. There are trustees for the SALS Central Library meeting, and there are also member libraries for so maybe we can combine the two groups. Stay tuned.
Okay, and the county aid coordinators, anything to report?
We have a Hamilton County vacancy, and one of the three trustees said, maybe. Nancy. I think you should do, short straws. The three of you.
Sure.
Okay, Carol, library services.
No, but we will have to meet before the next meeting to go after the Library Program of the Year award. Pamela, have there been any entrances for the library program?
No,
Well, that
I'm
can
on-
make it very easy then.
I've had one library ask that we highlight a member that recently retired, but I haven't received any nominations for programs or trustees.
Now they have till the March 31st, so.
We sent out a gentle reminder.
Okay, no, nothing else to report.
Okay. Personnel, Janet.
Nothing to report, and you might have to have a meeting for trustee of the year.
Okay. I have to pull one out of the hat.
Okay,
I think might be one coming from Clifton Park.
Okay.
Jordan again, nominating.
Nothing at this
Okay.
time.
And I don't think Barbara's not here today, right?
No, she said to
No.
postpone it until next
Yeah.
month. We didn't meet this month.
Right.
We were supposed to do homework for the meeting.
And you did it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, unfinished business. Boardable. What does that mean?
Oh, that was, sorry, sorry, I dropped the ball on that one. I need to reach out to our rep to get, you were all interested in what the cost of Boardable was, but I did not reach back out to them, but I'll reach out to them and have a quote for you at the next meeting.
Okay,
What is it?
It's software to,
Oh, that's for the,
for your boards to communicate and store documents and.
oh, okay, okay. So you're gonna report the next meeting. Okay, very good. Okay, the hybrid format for the annual meeting.
I guess the question is, what is your feeling? Should we have a hybrid and absorb the extra cost, or not absorb, or have it only as a face-to-face?
In my opinion, it's face to face. I think we discussed it last month, trying to decide if we thought more people would attend if it was hybrid. Didn't we say something like that? We were trying to do the pros and cons. That might have been one of the pros of having a hybrid, but I feel like at this point, face to face is probably the way to go, because we're all kind of getting back. Face to face. If we
Yeah,
go for hybrid, then we might not have very many people actually show up.
That would be the one.
Yes, that was my
That's- yeah,
my
that was your
concern.
comment, right?
I mean, it's wonderful and we all are used to hybrid meetings, which, as we said, we just did it with the lobbying visits. And it's great to have the ability for a few people. But I'm really just wondering now that we're back to face for our important meetings, whether we shouldn't be promoting that too. That's just my personal, anybody else want to comment?
Well,
Janet?
especially since there's a cost involved with attending,
Yes,
and if there's no cost involved with being home and watching, maybe very few people would attend, and that would be a pity.
yeah, well, it would have an impact on being able to fund the in-person meeting, lesser people attend, right?
Plus, if we're recognizing trustees of the year and program of the year, it's nice to have people there
Yeah.
in the moment. Because kind of like once you leave, no one really understands the importance of those honors.
Yeah, since I say about half the group has been trustees for several years, and prior to the pandemic and to the isolation, we even had a little contest where, you know, we say, how many people in your library did you bring, including trustees, guests, staff, whatever. And we had good turnouts. We had 100 to 200 people show up for it. And we had to move it around. To be fair, we were up in Lake George, we were here, we were other places as well. And yeah, it's supposed to be the big event of the year. It's the annual meeting as well, of course.
How soon do we know how many people will attend? I mean, when do we start responding?
Where we haven't sent out the invitations yet,
Yeah, I
because
guess,
we had to
yeah.
figure this out.
So, I mean.
April 28th will be the deadline.
Not enough time from that point to, yeah.
I don't know what other boards' experiences is, but since the last in-person meeting, I am the only remaining trustee on the board that has ever been to a SALS annual meeting. So. I guess from that point of view, I think it's important that it stay, an in-person thing.
Right, it's the one time that we get to see each other.
Right.
Mhm.
And the swag. The swag is so good this year. Oh,
So,
boy.
yeah, make that an incentive.
Yeah.
To get people to come. They'll offer extra swag if more.
One year we gave away baseball cards.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we haven't
I still have
had
mine.
we happen to have the historian of Major League Baseball,
That was
but
great, Erica.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what's your pleasure?
Should go.
Face to face.
for the
No,
purpose,
for
so that means no hybrid.
Right.
Correct.
Right, so.
So can I throw something out there before the invitations go out at the last meeting? The board voted to charge $30 per person. Does that want to be amended to $25 per person now that we don't have the hybrid option?
I thought the 30 was based on no technology already.
Nope, the other way. They approved $30 because it was going to be hybrid, so that anybody that felt $30 was too much for their budget could attend for free virtually.
But we do provide one board member per library as a guest.
and as I understand it, without the technology, the $30 is half of the cost of the $60 cost.
Yes,
So maybe we should just leave it the way it is.
okay.
All right, is it the sense of the board then that we don't even really need to take a vote on this? Is it, we'll just leave it, the sense of the board that we want to leave it an in-person meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody object to that? Okay. So that means also we can defer E as well under new business. If there's something major that comes up, like any other deliberative body, we can always revisit this. If it turns out that we need to do something different, we can revisit it later on, but it's a tight time frame. All right, so then let's move on to the SALS annual report. You've had a chance to look it over. Pamela sent out a copy. You've heard it described. It goes on and on forever. I know we all have to do it for our individual libraries as well.
58 pages. How much is it?
Pardon?
How many pages?
Many pages.
53, 54.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So-
very, very, not exactly the most exciting format either. None of the slides that Jack had for us for our own presentation. So I think we could probably, with a few minor corrections, I think we could probably move to an immediate vote. Could I have a motion to approve the submission of the annual report from Janet? Is there a second? Seconded by Carol. Okay, any discussion?
Well, I wanted to save a couple trees, so I didn't print. And I'm wondering are there any high points of interest in the
No.
annual report?
No, well, yeah, not really. We shared. What is kind of interesting is how many sessions we've done, continuing education, how many people come to our different, I don't know, am I jumping in? Do you see anything of? It's reporting what we report to you every month.
It will be summarized. It'll be summarized and presented at the annual meeting.
Yeah.
Right,
And
okay.
it looks nice.
And if you want to see how we spend, in fact, I'll give this to you. You want that big yellow tree.
And it's interesting just to see from the previous year that really there aren't any changes. So nothing really stands out like.
Nothing really stands out, except, I mean, when we were closed for COVID, things were different. And it's a historical, for the member libraries too, I'm gonna go out to say that it's really a way each library can see how they're doing year to year. And we can see how we're doing year to year, more of what it actually says. And I'll share one more boring fact about the annual report. And we have to make sure we approve it before we. There could be even more questions. The New York State, the states have to answer some federal questions.
Right.
So these are taken from federal questions and they're working to streamline it even more.
Actually, our statistical report that we put out has a lot of that in a nicer format, I think.
Because what,
It's
yeah,
more readable.
and that's pulling out what the member libraries are saying, what they do for their community.
Okay, any further comments, questions? All right, let's go to a vote then. All those in favor of approving the annual report, submitting it. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, the management representation letter. You want to speak to that?
Sure. In your packets or online or wherever is the management letter that Russ and Sarah and myself have to sign. So we need permission from the board to sign it. It's a typical accounting management letter that the auditors have to have. Basically, we're accepting responsibility for everything that they presented, basically. You also in the beginning of the audit process approved our answers to their questions regarding how we do our finances and accounting. And this basically is at the end of the audit. And once we do this, then this will get submitted to them. And in June, they will come and do a presentation to the board of our financial statements.
The findings, yeah.
Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion? I have a motion perhaps to accept the management letter. Margaret, and seconded by Jordan. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries.
Nancy is here. Do people see Nancy? Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
Nancy, tilt your screen down a little bit so we can see.
She's been trying throughout the whole meeting.
I'm only 4'11".
When it comes time to vote, she is raising her hand, Russ.
Okay.
Do you want Erica to talk about C and D? Russ?
Signing my management representation letter. All right, Zoom, Sarah.
Russ?
Yes.
New business C and D. Would you like Erica to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Erica.
Sorry, what's CMD?
C and D are appointment of Mary and appointment of Sabrina.
I'm so I'm so sorry. I thought it was an acronym for something. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Oh, yes. So I'm asking for two appointments to my coordinated outreach advisory council or committee. I forget which one it is. And we've had a couple people rotate off, so we didn't have at least 5 people, which is what we wanted. And I'm really excited to have the possibility to bring on Mary from Comfort Food Community, who, as you know, has been a partner for us in the Farm to Library program since 2017. And Sabrina Ehrlich, who is the person coordinating the rural opioid response and is our partner for the Narcan emergency kits. So I'm asking that they be approved to be on my COSAC board, and we get together by law. We have to get together 2 times a year. We happen to get together quarterly to share what's going on and to talk about different ways we can work together, and also to help network and meet other groups that we can partner with.
Both of these are your recommendation.
Yes. So these are both people that we are already working with and whose organizations we are working with and who have been good partners to us.
Right. But your recommendation to your advisory committee.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
I think it's a council, just a little bit of background in coordinated outreach is a mandatory categorical aid that we get from the state. And in education law and commissioners regulations, actually it's under New York State Education Law 273(1)H1 and commissioners regulations 90.3. We need to have a coordinated outreach services program. And part of that, we need to have an advisory council. And because it's in education law and because it's in commissioners regulations, the SALS board needs to approve appointees. So that's why we're going through this. And it's a council.
It's a committee. We usually get together. We all talk about what our different organizations are working on. We find if there's places to partner, and also as a way to, if someone says, oh, you know who else is doing something interesting, then they can introduce us to those people. That's kind of how we continue to grow our partnerships.
Okay, thank you. Let's take these individually. Could I have a motion to approve Mary Baranek to the COSAC committee from Elaine? Is there a second? Seconded by Sue. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. And now appointment of Sabrina Ehrlich to the COSAC. Elaine, and could I have a second, please? Carol, I guess. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, both are approved, and thank you, Erica, for the explanation. Is there a director's council report today?
No,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you.
Okay, none. Any further announcements, any further discussion?
A tour will be given of our, if people have a moment after they eat cookies, to go into the training lab and
Okay,
take a look.
I'll make it quick and painless.
Don't forget to jot down your mileage on your form
Right.
and remember to put your name at the top.
put it back in there,
Shaded area, we will reimburse you at the end of the year.
No idea.
put it back in the middle.
Like-
Okay, our next meeting is on April 18th at the
68.
usual time here. Can I have a motion to adjourn? From Elaine and seconded by Margaret, all in favor? Any negatives? We are adjourned, and thank you all. Nice way to kick off the new season.